There comes a moment in many lives when the storm finally quiets, when the long nights of worry begin to give way to mornings filled with hope. The doors that once seemed locked start to open, opportunities arrive, and the life you prayed for begins to take shape before your eyes. Yet few people realize that success brings its own challenges. It is easy to stay focused when you are struggling. It is much harder to stay wise when things are going well. Sometimes the very blessings we work so hard to receive can distract us from the values that carried us there. We become comfortable, forgetful, or convinced that the journey is finished. But life has a way of reminding us that growth does not end when success begins. In fact, the moments of prosperity often reveal who we truly are. Today, I want to share 5 mistakes that many people make when life starts going well. Mistakes that can quietly steal joy, weaken character, and turn blessings into burdens. More importantly, I want to show you how to remain grounded, grateful, and strong so that your success becomes not just something you achieve, but something you are truly able to keep. When life finally begins to smile upon you, it is natural to believe that the hardest part is over. After all, you have endured the disappointments, carried burdens that no one else could see, and continued moving forward even when the road seemed endless. So when opportunities arrive, when relationships improve, when your work is recognized, or when peace begins to replace struggle, it feels like a reward for everything you have endured. And in many ways, it is. But there is another truth that often goes unnoticed. Success is not only a reward for who you have been, it is also a test of who you are becoming. Many people imagine that challenges only come dressed in hardship. They think the real test of character is how you behave when you have nothing. Yet life teaches a deeper lesson. Sometimes the greatest test arrives when you finally have something to lose. When you are struggling, humility often comes naturally because circumstances keep you grounded. When success arrives, however, humility becomes a choice. The question is no longer whether you can survive difficult days. The question becomes whether you can remain wise, kind, and grateful during the good ones. Success has a quiet way of changing the atmosphere around us. People begin to notice us differently. Compliments become more frequent. Recognition becomes more common. Doors that once remained closed suddenly swing open. There is nothing wrong with enjoying these moments. They are part of life's beauty. But if we are not careful, we can begin to believe that our achievements make us greater than others. We can start measuring our worth by applause instead of character. We can become so focused on what we have gained that we forget the values that helped us gain it in the first place. The truth is that success reveals as much about a person as struggle does. When life is difficult, we discover our strength. When life is prosperous, we discover our discipline. It is easy to remain committed to growth when circumstances force us to fight for every inch of progress. It is much harder to maintain that same commitment when everything feels comfortable. Comfort can whisper dangerous messages into the human heart. It can tell us that we no longer need to learn, no longer need to improve, and no longer need to pay attention to the small choices that shape our future. Life often watches what we do with our blessings. It watches whether success makes us more generous or more selfish. It watches whether abundance expands our compassion or shrinks it. It watches whether achievement strengthens our integrity or weakens it. The rewards we receive are important, but the people we become while receiving them matter even more. A person who gains success but loses humility has paid too high a price. A person who gains recognition but loses gratitude has misunderstood the purpose of the journey. That is why wisdom requires us to see success differently. Rather than treating it as the finish line, we can view it as a new responsibility. Every blessing carries an opportunity to grow. Every achievement offers another chance to demonstrate character. Every victory invites us to remain grounded in the values that guided us through the struggle. The strongest people are not those who remain good only when life is difficult. The strongest people are those who remain good when life becomes easy. So, when your season of blessing arrives, welcome it with joy. Celebrate your progress. Be proud of how far you have come. But also remember that success is asking questions of you. Will you stay humble when you are praised? Will you stay grateful when your needs are met? Will you continue learning when you no longer feel desperate to grow? The answers to those questions will determine whether success simply visits your life for a moment or becomes a foundation upon which an even greater life can be built. One of the most common mistakes people make when life starts going well is forgetting the very struggles that help them become who they are. It does not happen all at once. It happens quietly, little by little. As comfort replaces uncertainty and abundance replaces lack, the memories of difficult days begin to fade. The nights spent worrying, the sacrifices made in silence, the setbacks that demanded courage, and the lessons learned through disappointment slowly move to the background. Yet those experiences were not obstacles standing in your way. They were teachers shaping your character. They were the fire that strengthened your spirit and prepared you for the blessings you now enjoy. There was a time when you understood the value of every opportunity because opportunities were rare. There was a time when every small victory felt significant because you knew what it meant to struggle. You appreciated progress because you remembered what it felt like to stand still. You valued kindness because you remembered the moments when kindness was all you had. The difficult seasons taught you lessons that success alone could never teach. They taught patience when things did not happen according to your plans. They taught resilience when giving up seemed easier than continuing. They taught faith when the future offered no guarantees. The danger begins when success convinces us that we arrived here entirely on our own. We start focusing only on the destination and forget the road that brought us there. We forget the mistakes that humbled us. We forget the failures that forced us to grow. We forget the people who encouraged us when our confidence was weak. And when we forget these things, we risk losing one of the most valuable qualities a person can possess: perspective. Perspective reminds us that today's strength was built from yesterday's struggles. It reminds us that every achievement has a story behind it, and every success rests upon lessons learned through difficulty. Life has a way of teaching through contrast. We appreciate light because we have known darkness. We value peace because we have experienced conflict. We recognize abundance because we remember scarcity. When we erase the memory of our struggles, we also weaken our appreciation for our blessings. Gratitude begins to fade. Entitlement quietly takes its place. What once felt extraordinary starts to feel ordinary. What once inspired thankfulness starts to feel expected. And when that happens, joy often disappears, not because life has become worse, but because we have forgotten how far we have come. The people who remain grounded through success are often the ones who keep their past close to their hearts. They do not dwell on pain, but they honor the lessons it provided. They remember the doors that did not open. They remember the times they had to wait. They remember the moments when they doubted themselves yet kept moving forward anyway. These memories do not make them bitter, they make them grateful. They serve as reminders that every blessing carries a story and every achievement carries a history of perseverance. Your struggles were never meant to define you, but they were meant to develop you. They shaped your wisdom, strengthened your patience, and deepened your compassion. The hardships you survived gave you insights that cannot be purchased and strength that cannot be borrowed. So as life improves and success finds its place in your story, do not leave those lessons behind. Carry them with you. Let them remind you where you came from and what it took to get here. Because the moment you respect your journey, You protect the very qualities that made your growth possible, and you ensure that success strengthens your character instead of changing it. There is a quiet strength in gratitude that many people underestimate. When life begins to improve, when opportunities become more frequent and burdens become lighter, gratitude can seem less urgent than it once was. During difficult seasons, we often pray for change, hope for better days, and long for relief. But once those better days arrive, it is easy to become so accustomed to our blessings that we stop noticing them. What was once a dream becomes routine. What was once a miracle becomes an expectation. And without realizing it, we begin to see life through a different lens, not through appreciation, but through assumption. A grateful heart understands that nothing should be taken for granted. It recognizes that every opportunity, every meaningful relationship, every lesson learned, and every moment of peace carries value. Gratitude does not require a perfect life. It simply requires awareness. It asks us to pause long enough to recognize the good that exists in our lives, even as we continue striving for more. The beautiful thing about gratitude is that it allows us to enjoy success without becoming consumed by it. It reminds us that blessings are gifts to be appreciated, not possessions to be worshipped. Many people believe that happiness comes from getting more. They spend years chasing the next achievement, the next promotion, the next milestone, convinced that fulfillment is waiting somewhere ahead. Yet the human heart has a tendency to adapt quickly. What once seemed extraordinary soon becomes normal. The new opportunity loses its excitement. The accomplishment that once brought pride becomes another item on a growing list. If gratitude is absent, the cycle never ends. There is always something else to pursue, something else to acquire, something else to prove. The destination keeps moving farther away, leaving a person constantly searching, but rarely satisfied. Gratitude breaks that cycle. It teaches us how to celebrate where we are while still pursuing where we want to go. It allows ambition and contentment to exist together. A grateful person can dream of a better future without becoming blind to the beauty of the present. They can work hard for greater success without believing that their worth depends upon it. They understand that life's richness is found not only in what they hope to gain, but also in what they already possess. The opposite of gratitude is not simply complaining. Often it is entitlement. Entitlement quietly convinces people that they deserve every blessing they receive and more. It whispers that success is owed to them, that opportunities should always appear, and that favorable circumstances should never change. When entitlement takes root, appreciation begins to disappear. The extraordinary becomes ordinary, the meaningful becomes expected, and the person who once celebrated small victories becomes frustrated by anything less than perfection. Life has a way of humbling that mindset. Circumstances change, seasons shift, the things we once assumed would always be present sometimes fade away. In those moments, people often realize how much they overlooked while they had it. They discover that gratitude would have allowed them to experience those blessings more fully. They learn that appreciation is not something to practice after loss occurs. It is something to practice while the blessing is still in our hands. The most fulfilled people are rarely the ones who have the most. They are often the ones who notice the most. They notice kindness when it appears. They notice opportunities when they arrive. They notice growth, progress, friendship, health, and moments of peace that others overlook. Their gratitude keeps them connected to life's abundance. It protects them from the illusion that happiness is always somewhere else. As life starts going well, guard your gratitude carefully. Do not allow success to make you forget the wonder of the journey. Continue appreciating the opportunities that come your way. Continue recognizing the people who enrich your life. Continue honoring the blessings that once seemed impossible. Gratitude is more than a pleasant feeling. It is a way of seeing. And when you learn to see life through grateful eyes, success becomes more than something you achieve. It becomes something you truly enjoy. One of the most subtle dangers that appears when life starts going well is pride. Unlike many other mistakes, pride rarely announces its arrival. It does not knock on the door and introduce itself. Instead, it slips quietly into our thinking. It begins with small changes in perspective. We start believing that our success proves we have all the answers. We become less willing to listen, less eager to learn, and less open to correction. The very confidence that once helped us move forward slowly transforms into something heavier, something that separates us from wisdom rather than guiding us toward it. There is nothing wrong with being proud of your accomplishments. You should celebrate the obstacles you have overcome and the goals you have achieved. You should recognize the effort, discipline, and perseverance that brought you this far. Healthy confidence allows people to stand tall and acknowledge their growth, but there is a difference between confidence and pride. Confidence says, I have learned a great deal. Pride says, there is nothing left for me to learn. Confidence encourages growth. Pride quietly ends it. The truth is that no matter how much success a person achieves, there will always be more to discover. Life is far too vast, too complex, and too rich for anyone to master completely. Every experience carries a lesson. Every person carries knowledge that we do not possess. Every season offers opportunities to grow in ways we never expected. The moment we believe we have reached the end of learning is often the moment our growth begins to slow, not because life has stopped teaching, but because we have stopped listening. Many successful people fall into this trap without realizing it. They become surrounded by praise and admiration. People begin agreeing with them more often. Their opinions carry greater influence. Their achievements earn respect. Over time, they may begin to mistake recognition for wisdom. They assume that success in one area makes them an expert in every area. They become less curious and more certain. Yet certainty can be dangerous when it closes the door to new understanding. Humility, on the other hand, keeps that door open. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking clearly about yourself. It means recognizing your strengths while also acknowledging your limitations. It means understanding that achievement does not make you superior to others. It means remaining teachable even after reaching heights that once seemed impossible. Humility allows a person to continue evolving long after others have stopped growing. Some of the wisest individuals in history shared a common trait. Despite their accomplishments, they remained students of life. They asked questions. They welcomed new ideas. They understood that knowledge is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. Their greatness did not come from pretending to know everything. It came from maintaining the courage to keep learning. They recognized that growth requires openness, and openness requires humility. Life often reminds us of this lesson in unexpected ways. A new challenge appears that our previous experience cannot solve. A setback reveals weaknesses we thought we had overcome. A conversation introduces a perspective we had never considered. These moments are not signs of failure. They are invitations to expand. But only humble hearts can accept those invitations. Pride resists them. Pride sees correction as an attack and learning as a threat. Humility sees both as opportunities. As your life improves and your accomplishments grow, protect your ability to learn. Remain curious. Listen carefully to others, regardless of their status or position. Be willing to admit when you are wrong. Be willing to change your mind when new understanding emerges. Remember that the qualities that helped you succeed, openness, perseverance, curiosity, and discipline, are the same qualities that will help you continue succeeding. The strongest people are not those who believe they have reached the top of the mountain. They are the ones who understand that every summit reveals another horizon. They know that growth never truly ends, and because they remain humble, Life continues to teach them, shape them, and elevate them long after success has arrived. Humility is not what holds greatness back. It is what allows greatness to endure. As life begins to improve, there is another mistake that quietly finds its way into many success stories. It is not always intentional, and it is not always obvious at first. It happens when people become so focused on their future that they forget those who stood beside them in their past. The relationships that once provided strength, encouragement, and comfort slowly receive less attention. The people who believed in them during uncertain times become distant memories. The very hands that helped lift them are no longer acknowledged with the gratitude they deserve. Every journey is personal, but no journey is traveled entirely alone. Behind every achievement, there are often countless acts of kindness that made progress possible. There was someone who offered encouragement when doubt felt overwhelming. There was someone who listened when the burden became too heavy to carry in silence. There was someone who opened a door, shared wisdom, extended patience, or simply remained present during a difficult season. These contributions may not appear in awards, titles, or public recognition, but they are woven into the fabric of every meaningful success. When people are struggling, they often understand the value of support very clearly. They know what it means to receive a helping hand because they need one. They appreciate loyalty because it becomes a source of strength. But once success arrives, life becomes busier. New responsibilities emerge. New opportunities demand attention. Ambitions expand. Without realizing it, people sometimes begin investing all their energy into what is ahead while neglecting those who help them get there. The pursuit of success becomes so consuming that relationships are treated as secondary concerns rather than treasured gifts. The tragedy of this mistake is that success loses some of its meaning when it is disconnected from human connection. Accomplishments can bring satisfaction, but relationships bring depth. Achievements may fill a resume, but meaningful relationships fill a life. At the end of the day, people rarely remember every detail of their accomplishments. They remember the people who walked beside them through the journey. They remember the voices that encouraged them, the hearts that supported them, and the individuals who remained loyal when success was still only a distant dream. There is a difference between outgrowing circumstances and abandoning people. Growth sometimes requires moving into new environments, pursuing new opportunities, and embracing new challenges. That is a natural part of life, but growth should never require forgetting the people who cared for us along the way. True success expands a person's capacity for gratitude rather than shrinking it. It creates more appreciation, not less. It inspires a person to honor their roots even as they reach for greater heights. The people who supported you during difficult seasons often saw something in you before the world did. They believed in possibilities that were not yet visible. They invested time, energy, encouragement, and trust without knowing what the outcome would be. Their support was not based on your accomplishments. It was based on your humanity. That kind of loyalty is rare and valuable. It deserves recognition long after success arrives. One of the most beautiful qualities a person can possess is remembrance. Remembrance keeps the heart humble. It reminds us that every blessing has a story behind it. It reminds us that many victories are shared victories. It reminds us that strength often grows through community rather than isolation. A grateful person does not simply celebrate their own progress. They acknowledge the people who helped make that progress possible. As your life continues to improve, make time for those who stood by you when the road was uncertain. Express appreciation while you still have the opportunity. Reach out to the friends, mentors, family members, and supporters who offered light during darker days. Let them know their presence mattered. Let them know their encouragement made a difference. Success shines brightest when it is accompanied by gratitude, and few expressions of gratitude are more powerful than remembering the people who helped you become the person you are today. Their role in your story is not a footnote, it is part of the foundation upon which your success was built. There is a belief that many people carry without even realizing it. They believe that discipline is only necessary when life is difficult. They see it as something required during the climb, something needed to survive hardship, overcome obstacles, and reach important goals. But once success arrives, many begin to loosen their commitment to the very habits that brought them there. They tell themselves they can relax a little more, delay things a little longer, and put in a little less effort. After all, they have already achieved what they once dreamed of achieving. Yet this is often the moment when growth begins to slow, not because opportunity has disappeared, but because discipline has quietly faded. The truth is that success is not built by occasional effort. It is built by consistent effort repeated over time. The habits that shape a person's future are rarely dramatic. They are often small actions performed day after day, even when no one is watching. It is the willingness to stay committed when motivation comes and goes. It is the decision to keep learning when there is no immediate reward. It is the courage to remain focused when distractions seem more appealing than responsibility. These habits may appear ordinary, but together they create extraordinary results. When people first begin their journey toward a goal, discipline often feels urgent. Their circumstances demand it. They wake up early because they must. They work hard because they need to. They remain focused because failure is not an option. Yet once success provides comfort and security, the sense of urgency can disappear. The routines that once felt essential begin to feel optional. The standards that once guided daily life become easier to ignore. What begins as a small compromise can eventually become a pattern. Life has a way of reminding us that growth is not something we achieve once and keep forever. Growth is a living process. Just as a garden requires ongoing care, a successful life requires ongoing attention. A gardener does not stop watering plants because they have already begun to bloom. In the same way, we cannot abandon the habits that created our progress simply because progress has become visible. The moment we stop nurturing what matters is often the moment decline quietly begins. Discipline is not punishment. It is an expression of self-respect. It is a way of honoring your potential and protecting your future. A disciplined person understands that today's choices shape tomorrow's reality. They recognize that success is not maintained through wishful thinking, but through intentional action. They know that every meaningful achievement must be supported by continued effort if it is going to endure. One of the greatest misconceptions about successful people is that they somehow reach a point where discipline is no longer necessary. In reality, many of the most accomplished individuals become even more disciplined after achieving success. They understand that achievement creates new responsibilities. They know that maintaining excellence often requires as much dedication as reaching it. Rather than becoming careless, they become more intentional. Rather than drifting through life, they continue strengthening the habits that support their goals and values. There is something powerful about remaining faithful to the routines that helped you grow. It keeps you connected to the person who fought through uncertainty. It reminds you of the effort that built your foundation. It prevents success from turning into complacency. Most importantly, it allows you to continue evolving long after others have stopped. While some people see achievement as permission to settle, disciplined individuals see achievement as an invitation to keep growing. The beautiful thing about discipline is that it does not demand perfection. It simply asks for consistency. It does not require that every day be flawless. It only requires that you continue showing up. There will be moments when enthusiasm fades and progress feels slow. There will be days when comfort tempts you to choose ease over effort. Yet every time you return to the habits that strengthen your character, you reaffirm your commitment to the life you are building. As life starts going well, guard your discipline carefully. Do not view it as something that belonged only to your past struggles. View it as a companion for every season of life. The habits that carried you through difficult days can also carry you through successful ones. They can keep you grounded when praise arrives, focused when distractions appear, and growing when comfort invites you to stop. Success may open the door, but discipline is often what keeps that door open for years to come.